This is what my Georgia candy roaster looks like after being hit by the squash vine borer, the pickle worm, and the squash bug. This is a mature plant that's already given me 4 fruit, and we still have 2 fruit on this one, and we have fruit coming up on the other one on the other side. Now, they are not new plants. This is what I call recovery, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to recover after your plant's been hit by the squash vine borer. Growing out the box. I'm in Georgia Zone 8A for the past 3 weeks. We've been not only getting above average temperatures, but we've been getting those afternoon showers pretty much like we live in Florida. Just wanted to give you guys an update on my Georgia candy roasters. They're not doing so well, but at the same time, we are not defeated. That gives perfect cover for the pickle worm, which likes those tropical environments like Florida and Texas. This is what we've gotten off of her so far this year. This one's a perfect squash. So we're gonna be eating this, and not only eating it, we're gonna be collecting the seeds. But on these, we're also gonna be collecting the seeds. And I got one more on the plant that I'm gonna go ahead and take off today. This is what the typical pickle worm damage looks like. And there's that frask that we look for. But you can see we got holes all over it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, they're just all over the place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut that off and add that to the other ones and kind of give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. See all these little holes everywhere? All over. Now with that rain that we've been getting every day, it's not a whole lot you can do. You're not able to tend to the garden the way that you really want to, and the insects tend to take over. Not only has this plant been hit by the pickle worm, we also have evidence that a squash bug has been here. Now normally the squash bug lays their eggs on the underside of the leaves, but they will lay them on the top side of the leaves as well. If you look on the back side here, you got squash bug eggs there. Go to the other side of the leaf, there's some more right there. Now I hear a lot of people say the easiest way to take them is take your finger and squish them. Just gonna remove it. Anything that's looking limp. This is an example of what that toxin does to the plant. You see how these leaves are starting to wilt? Those are squash bug eggs. Remove it. You see this one's limp? Those are things that you want to look for. And there it is right here on the back side. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that. This is evidence of a squash vine borer. So the borer has gotten in somewhere right here. You see that frask there? And he's going up. Right there where we have some more of that frask. So basically the whole top half of this plant is gone. The bottom half, however, look at how well that's looking. This is a beautiful plant. And you even have another fruit down here at the bottom coming in. Matter of fact, we have several fruit coming in at the bottom. So we can save this, and I'm gonna show you how we can save it. I've already done it with this side. You see all this damage going up and down? We're not really concerned with that, because we got a good candidate coming off right here. And what I've done is I simply taken that in and buried this portion of the vine, and look how beautiful that baby's coming up. And since we're coming to the end of the season with the squash vine borer, we'll be able to go over here and do the exact same thing with this one here, because that's coming off the bottom of the vine as well. Because remember, all of this is already damaged going up. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this portion of the plant and we're gonna do the exact same thing that we did on the other side. The squash vine borer starts to appear around the first part of spring, and they'll go from May, June, and July, and then they'll start to fade out. And you won't have as much a problem with the squash vine borer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bank on being able to get around that time. And so remember, we started in the beginning by beating the squash vine borer, and we got a few fruit off before the squash vine borer attacked. We're gonna take the rest of this vine and we're gonna run it under the ground, put some of our compost on top of it, and then run it back up this stake. Now for me, this is all about a challenge. I like just as much growing fruit and vegetables as I do the challenge. And this, to me, if I can get through this, it'll give you guys a better understanding of what things you can and cannot do, or best practices when dealing with the squash vine borer. Look at that. Look at all that mycelium. This is one of the reasons why I like to use heavy mulch. We're going to try to disturb as little of this as possible. And what we want to do is just create a trench all the way over to this stake. Trusty hoary knife. Get that all fluffed up in there. We're gonna take some of my homemade fertilizer, which is peanut meal, burnt banana skins, burnt squash and cucumber skins, powdered eggshells, and then we're gonna mix that in. So we're gonna remove all of this stuff. One thing we're gonna leave on there are the tendrils. Just attach this up here real quick. We're just going to add some of our compost down there. We want a real good solid contact. We're going to sprinkle in some more of our homemade fertilizer so that the mycelium and those microbes can start breaking that stuff down. And then we're going to go back and we're going to heavy mulch this entire bed again. At least 2 to 3 inches of mulch. And while this may not seem like it's doing much, this mulch that we just put down here can keep the temperature of the soil 10 to 15, sometimes 20 degrees cooler than what the ambient temperature is outside. So what I'm also going to do is, since we don't need any of this, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all that so that energy can go back to this plant here. Now here's what I want to show you what this one looks like now. You see we got some fruit on here. We're not going to remove that. And I'm going to take you over here to this one and look at how it's perking up. So basically what I'm going to do is, once this starts to run, I'm going to run it right back to the trellis. So again, we're just giving you some ideas on what to do when your plant gets stricken by the squash vine borer. That's the larvae of the pickleworm moth. This is the one that's causing all this damage. Now some might say that's doing a little too much for such a little amount of fruit, but for me it really is never about just the fruit. It's about growing out the box.